Thank you. All right, guys.
Next week is the last thing that was done.
Now to get to speak up, James.
Oh, no.
Right. Please get your absolute value notes up, guys. Hello, boy.
I cannot feel my fingers. That's not so funny.
The moment to do registration of time.
Read this word count.
Okay. All right, guys, let's just have a look at what we've been doing. Okay. So, okay. Remember, we started off, because I'm sure we get these things. Our definition of absolute value is given, right?
I feel my fingers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as I said before, by the way, I think this grade did very well. So well done to you guys. Okay. Best I've seen in a while, actually. So, absolute value of x. So how do I read this? Absolute, if I use a split definition, absolute value of something stays the same if what's inside is bigger than or equal to 0, but change the signs if what's inside is less than 0. Okay. So when you've got constants, you know that they're positive or negative. Okay. So you use a one split accordingly. But when we're working with variables, okay, we go back to the definition. Okay. So you get two different solutions. We're going to get to that when we look at graphs, right? Okay, and we had all of those definitions of split functions. When you do a split function, okay, remember make x the subject of the formula. So every absolute value at this stage of your life that you're working with is made up of two. What kind of graphs are these, by the way, when you draw them? What is a graph y is equal to 2x minus 5? What type of graph? Straight lines. It's made up of two different straight line graphs. Together make up one absolute value graph. Okay. Then we started looking at equations, and which is linked to the split, but you don't have to go write the definition. Okay. And the biggest difference in all three types is what? When you have to check. Okay. So the first type we looked at was absolute value of constants. Okay. That has to be a positive constant to get a solution. Why? Because the absolute value is something can only spit out positive constant equals 0. It cannot spit out negative constants. It can spit out a negative variable, but it can't spit out a negative constant, right? Okay. So then, if absolute value of x is 7, x could be 7 or negative 7. But if you get a negative, negative constants, if it was negative x, you could have the solution, right? But a negative constant, you're just going to say no solution. If it's naught, it's naught. Yeah, two different solutions. Okay, and we did all of those. Okay, here, when we got absolute value of x, the absolute value is oh, I've got a negative, so immediately no solution. A negative constant, right? Okay. Always isolate the absolute value first. Okay. Right, then I think we went on to type 2. And in type 2, well, just the one other thing, you can't split that up. Okay, right. With all of these type 1s, though, you don't have to check your solutions are valid. And the only time I have to check my solutions are valid is when? It's when you've got an absolute value of something and the x is outside the absolute value. If the x is outside the absolute value, what do you have to go do? You have to go back something into the original equation and check. Sometimes you can get two answers, one answer, but sometimes no. Right. Okay. So we did all of that. Check your answers here. You had one answer that was valid here. Both answers weren't valid. Okay, etc., etc. But still, don't forget. So absolute value of something is equal to a negative variable. You can have a solution, but a negative constant you can't. Okay. Blah blah blah. We did all of those, and then type 3, you have two absolute values, and the only thing is here you don't have to check. Okay. So far so good. Okay. Right, now we get to a very powerful mathematic technique, which you can use all over the place. Okay, so if you could read for us, please. Okay, I'll read it. Okay, so highlight this. Okay, so first of all, guys, this over here, absolute value, if you're doing without absolute values, so remember in fractions, you had the, so I gave you this x minus 2 plus something over 2 minus x. and you wanted to make that x minus 2, what did I have to do? Well, you're essentially taking out a negative, right? Okay, so when you take out a negative, this plus will become a minus, right? So in other words, x minus 2, if you are 2 minus x is equal to, so that's without absolute values. Okay, so 2 minus x is equal to negative x minus 2. Okay. But with absolute values, you don't have to do that. The absolute value of x minus 2 is equal to the same thing as the absolute value of 2 minus x. You don't have to take out a negative. They're the same thing. Got to do with the absolute value, change the negative into a positive. And do the proof for it, but it's a long proof, right? But just check with constants. If I said to you this, is the absolute value of 5 minus 2 equal to the absolute value of 2 minus 5?
Yes.
What's the absolute value of 5 minus 2? What's the absolute value of 2 minus 5? 3. So if you swap them around, you don't have to take out a negative, right? So the absolute value of x minus 2 is 2 minus x. This is important. But 2 minus x, if you don't have absolute values, you've got to take out a negative, right? Okay, but absolute values, we don't have to take out a negative to make it true. Okay, so that's a really important idea, guys. Absolute value of a minus x is equal to x minus a. Okay. So let's just do an example, okay, and then we'll have a look at what we said as the method. Okay, so here, we'll have a break at half time. You've got absolute value of x squared minus 2x minus a. Is hockey and netball all that finished now? Still going on. No. Okay. So in this one over here, guys, okay, it's a really powerful mathematical technique. Okay, it's this method of substitution. So at the I can use substitution, and this is the key idea. Okay, you can use substitution, and you can use it in all types of maths. When all of the original variables disappear. How do you spell disappear? How many S's? This
2.
is it. Disappear after the substitution. Doesn't matter, we don't really care. Okay, after the substitution. Okay.
No, it's 2 p's. It's 2 p's.
Okay, what is, okay. What you do when you know how to spell something? I can't. Okay. Yes, spell that.
I came before Bianca and
Funny having a bad one today. Okay. Right. We'll say she's not sure if I put it to, she has to do 10 star jumps as she walks into the room. Right.
Crossing squadrons. This one's where you
Shame. It's only the Monday. Let's give her normal ones. Use substitution when all of the original variables are gone after substitution. In other words, you can't be left with 2 variables. I'll explain this all now. If you left the 2 variables after your substitution, it's not the right technique to use for that particular sum. So it says use substitution when all of the original variables are gone after substitution. And you can't be left with 2 variables. Shit, did I start recording? Did I? Okay, now I have a swear with that one. Yeah. So what the hell am I talking about? Well, if I had a sum like this, x 2x plus 1 minus 2 over x plus 1 is equal to 3. Okay. I can't use a substitution. I actually want to make it a bit different. So I gave, no, let's just leave it like that. Okay. If I let k be equal to x plus 1, well, first of all, it would be trivial. Sorry, let me just do this. Let's say x. Okay. I could let k be equal to x, first of all. So I'm going to choose another letter to replace things with. Well, first of all, you can get rid of all the original letters, but it doesn't make your sum any easier. this, that's just an x, sorry. Okay, if I let k be equal to x, that's a trivial substitution, why? Because you end up essentially with the same stuff, right? You'd have k minus 2 over k plus 1, k is equal to 3. Doesn't help us. Okay, if I had this though, okay, x plus 1 minus 2 over x plus 1 is equal to 3. Oh, you made it by 1.5 minutes. Okay, otherwise you're about to do star jumps. Right, okay. So here, okay, I could do this. What is x plus 1, guys? X plus 1 is a number, a single value, right? If x was equal to 7, x plus 1 would be 8. If x was 11, x plus 1 would be 12, right? So it can make our life easier if I did something like this. And I said, right, choose a letter. For some reason, we often use k. It could be anything. That's not an x. If I let k be equal to x plus 1, what does the sum now become? K minus 2 over k is equal to 3, right?
Should I have brackets around the x as well?
No, you don't have. Okay. Have all the original x's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I had 3x over here, then I'd be left with that is equal to 3x. And then I'll be left with two variables, right? Okay, and then substitution is not the right technique. Capish? Okay, if I had a 3x there, okay, right? If I had a 3x over there, then this would be left with, and I let k be equal to x plus 1. That's you with me. Do that, but it hasn't made our life any much easier. You with me? Okay, so all the original variables must disappear. Okay, I wasn't planning to do this, but let's just do this quickly. So say I had this. Why does it make my life easier? Well, if I times everything by x plus 1, it's just a bit messy. You could times everything by x plus 1 and it would work. But you could also do this. Okay, I acknowledge that that's a single number. So I let k be equal to x plus 1. Right, now I want you to go solve for k. I'm multiplying everything by k. Off you go. Go solve for k. Okay, so how are you going to solve for k? First of all, how am I going to do the k at the bottom for you? It's not good enough just being here, you have to be here and right.
So
I know you're proud of yourself, and that's great. Okay. And now step. Okay, so all I did was this. Okay, sorry, I know I jumped around a bit. If the question had been this way, okay, and I said solve for x. Okay, sorry, this kind of developed its own life. Okay, let me start again. Okay, don't worry, you don't have to read right. So the question would have been this. If I gave you this, okay, and I said you solve for x. Just wait 1 sec. Okay, and I said solve for x, right? And you had x plus 1 minus 2 over x plus 1 is equal to 3. You can do it just by timesing by x plus 1. This one, okay, it works, no problem. But it can make your life easier if I say, well, x plus 1 is just this, it's the same number, right? We don't know what it is, but it's the same thing. So we make our life easier by saying, okay, well, let's just rename it as k. Because it's easier to work with than x plus 1. So now I get k minus 2 over k is equal to 3. The question is still solve for x. So go solve for k though. How do I solve for k? And now what could I do? When I multiply everything by k, what do I get? Okay, we've got 2 South African finals tonight. This one. Okay.
it's a rock climbing.
Okay.
I
Right.
want to check the side. It is cursed, that side. It is so bad.
Google rock climbing for the Olympics and it'll bring up the time. Right. So now what? How do I solve? What is this kind of equation called? A what?
Quadratic.
Why? Because it's got the biggest exponent is?
Weird.
Okay. So what do I do with the quadratic?
So it's not problem
You move all the things to one
Is this
side.
not going to work?
though. No.
Okay. Then I'm going to change the equation quickly. So I get k, what happens when you do spontaneous sums? K squared minus 3k minus 2. I want you to do this for me. I want you to make, instead of just change this, you don't have to use typics. Make this a plus. Okay, so it becomes k plus 2 over k. Is that going to help us? No, it's not.
Use a wall.
No, it won't.
Use a wall.
Because it'd be 3k plus 3k minus 2.
Two.
Oh, yeah, it will work. Okay, so that'll become plus 2. No, it still won't work.
It's a wall. Minus 1.
Yeah, it will. Okay, plus 2. Okay, so now factorize. What does it factorize? K minus 2, K minus 1, right? So what's K equal to? So K is equal to 2 or K is equal to 1. Do you agree? What's the question solved for K? What does the question solve for X, right? So what could I do now? What's K equal to? K is X plus 1, right? Okay, so if I sub back, X plus 1 is 2 or X plus 1 is 1. So X is 1. You with me? Okay.
You have to put down restrictions as well.
Yeah, well, X couldn't be negative 1.
We have
Okay.
to say that. So.
Yeah.
It's good maths. Okay. Okay, so when do I use it? This is called solving by substitution. When do I use it, guys? Okay, first of all, it's when it makes your life easier. Don't do a trivial substitution where you're just replacing the X with a K or something like that. Okay, so when there's, what has to happen? After you've done this substitution, how do you know if it's a possible technique? What should happen? All the original letters have to, all the original variables have to disappear, right? And you only have to be left, if you had an X in the sum anyway, okay, it's not a valid technique. You solve for that variable you substituted in, and you sub back and you solve for what you're looking for. Okay, it can help all over the place. Okay. You with me? So this is what I said here in this method here. So on the previous page, it says here, okay, let K be equal to, here we can use absolute values. So let's, f of X just means something with X is in, right? Solve for K, sub back solution, and solve for X. So you can use an absolute value, but you can actually use it in all kinds of ways. Yeah. Honey, how are you doing? Are you awake? You're looking a bit stunned. Okay, right. If I get this, we're going to do more, so don't stress. Okay, we have 10 minutes to deliberate. Make it 15. Okay, right. So let's have a look at this, guys. Okay. Okay, right. So what could I do here to make my life easier? Let K be equal to X, it doesn't help us at all. But I could let K be equal to what?
Squares.
No, not going to help us. Let K be equal to the absolute value of X. Okay, because it's easier to work with a non-absolute value equation than an absolute value equation, right? All I'm saying, Sunny, is that absolute value of X is a single number. Okay, so it's a single thing. We don't know what it is. Okay, so what we can say is, okay, well, we don't know what it is, so I'm going to make my life a little bit easier and just say that. So then coming out, what does the sum become? Are there any X's there? Okay, substitution is a valid technique, and it's a little bit easier solving that equation than one with an absolute value. The only way you could solve that one at the top there would be to use a split function definition without using a substitution. It would be a mission. Right. So now I want you to go solve for K. With your neighbors, you get the same answer for K.
Oh, those can't be valid.
And remember, you're not finished if you solve for K. What was the question? Solve for X. So you've got to go back and sub X.
That's a double fix for the friends.
Good idea. Right. Wait, how do I substitute? How do I factorize that?
2 minus 4 equals 2.
Let those people who mocked you follow that. Right. So, what's K equal to?
Is 4 minus 2.
Indeed. Okay, Ziana, we finished.
Yeah.
How?
No.
That, no, I'm saying, is that finished?
Are you into the
No,
next
no,
one?
is this finished?
Yeah,
No, it's not. What's the question?
this one.
What's this question? What does it say? The question should say at the top. Sorry.
So for x, oh.
Solve for x. At the moment, I've solved for what?
It's x equals 4 or x equals negative.
What is k the same thing as? K is what, guys? Okay, so that if k is 4 and we let k be equal to the absolute value of x, that means the absolute value of x is 4, or the absolute value of x is
But it can't be negative.
negative 2, right?
It can't be negative.
Okay, but it can't, the absolute value of something cannot be a negative constant, right? So this answer, we just have to do this. Okay, there's no solution there, right? But on this side, there is. With constant, what do I do? Coming at it? Either x is what? How do I solve this? There we go. Good.
And then my once we set up my other cousin, with some.
You just did the definition, but that's going to take a long time. Yeah. Right, are you guys happy with that? Right, try, do the next one. Try start the next one.
So if you, in the exam, if you go straight from the, k negative, k negative 4.
Okay, plus 2.
Plus 2.
Yeah.
Straight to the.
Absolute value of 6. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Try the next one. What? Not just x minus 2? Absolute value. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm struggling to get the earrings.
So that's going to be my substitution. Absolute value of x minus 2. So sub in and solve for k, and then sub back and solve for x.
That's not too bad.
Quite nice, yeah?
Not too bad.
Wait, so should we say that for like, let's look at the top one with it's not 2 centimeters. No, it's okay, cool.
Sure.
Yes. What did we say k is equal to? K is equal to 6k.
So let's just have a look. So you need k be equal to absolute value of x minus 2. So you get k minus 6 over k is 5. Multiply everything by, if you wanted to put it here, I mean, if you wanted to, you could immediately say x. Do you understand why my restriction is x cannot be 2? Why can't x be 2, guys? Because if you divide by 0, what happens? Anything divided by 0 is undefined. So the restriction is to do with the denominator, right? Okay. So I don't know if we need that. We can check. If we get an answer of 2, it's not going to be valid. That's all. Okay. So I get k is 6. So I end up with k squared. I times everything by k. Are we happy with that? Okay. So quadratic, get everything to one side. Factorize. So you get k is 6 or k is negative 1. Everyone okay after this? Ramani, what do you want to do next? So what was k equal to? Okay. So the absolute value of x minus 2 is 6, or absolute value of x minus 2 is negative 1? Not wrong. Which of those has got no solution?
The x minus 2 equals -1.
Okay, so this has got no solution, right? So you can either write no solution, or you can just put a line through that. And then Bianca and Sunny. Okay, if the absolute value of x minus 2 is 6, what could x minus 2 be? Good. Okay. So I get x is good. You happy with that?
We have to write down the solution for them.
No, you can just draw. You don't have to write that. You got me to put it cannot be equal to that. But no, that question like this was about 8 marks. I think it's quite easy marks if you recognize the substitution. Any questions about this so far? Okay. Right. We'll do one more, then we'll have a quick break. Right. Okay, so now what did I say at the beginning of the lesson was really important to recognize? Okay. What did we say at the beginning? You can remember? Yeah.
Sorry. Can I see this in terms of?
Yeah.
Okay, that x minus 5.
Absolute value of.
Absolute value of x minus 5 is equal to the absolute.
So
value
guys,
of x minus 5.
Right. Right. If you had this with no absolute value, like you're going to get in call next year. If I gave you that in call you next year, you're going to use substitution to solve this, right? But x minus 5 is not the same thing as 5 minus x. If x is 2, 2 minus 5 is negative 3, but the other one, okay, so I couldn't substitute now, right? So what would you have to do? You'd have to change the sign, right? So you'd have to rewrite this as x minus 5. You're taking out what you're really doing is this. You're taking out, I wouldn't write the step down. You're taking out a negative there. And a negative makes a, I would go straight to here. Okay. And then your det k be equal to x minus 5. And go from there, right? But if there's no absolute value, and that's x minus 5, and that's 5 minus x, what I'd have to do is I'd have to change the sign in the middle, right? To make them the same, because two negatives have to cancel out to make a positive, right? But with absolute values, you don't have to do that. Why? Because absolute value of negative 2 is the same thing as absolute value of 2. Okay. Absolute value of x is the same thing as absolute value of negative x. So in other words, absolute value of x minus 5, minus 6 over 5 minus x, I will rewrite that, but I do not have to change the sign because they're just the same things written in a different way. Okay, so this, highlight these two bits of these sums, guys, that's really important. So this over here, they're the same, I don't change the sign, but here, I would change that sign, I change the sign of two things. Okay. So make a little note to yourself. Okay. No change. No change of sign outside there. Because here there would be a change of sign is needed. Are you happy with that? Okay, right. Go to your substitution. We use a let's live on the wild side and use a different letter. So you don't think it has to be K. I'm going to let N. S looks too much like a 5. Sorry. I was going to do S for Sunny, but then S looks like a 5. Okay. That's okay. Right, but if you haven't, just to show you, because some of you start calling this the K method. It's not, it's a substitution. Okay. Let's see the question. Okay.
This looks like that for me.
It looks like nothing.
Right, so try that substitution. I'll let m be equal to the absolute value of x minus 5. Go solve for m. They don't understand this class not with the m. The tribute to you. Yeah. It's all right.
To hear that, Maya. Doesn't bring myself.
Okay. What happened?
Doesn't come from.
Right, so go solve for m. Bianca, have you finished? Oh dear.
Sir, I have a question.
And 1 sec. So I get m minus 6 over n is equal to 5. Are we good with that? Now what I do, total?
Times both sides by n.
So what does it become?
N squared minus 6 and 4 is 5 n.
Then what?
Then you move over to 5 and then it'll become n squared minus 5 and minus 6. So
Yeah.
that part, right? So the thing is, initially we can't let x equals 5 because we'll take out the numerator, right?
Well, the restriction is x. If you get an answer of 5,
Yeah.
it'll be invalid.
So this. So then now, is there 2 ways in which you could get that? There aren't. Because if I have, oh yeah.
Anyway, you can do it is m minus 6, m plus 1. If you have m minus 2, m minus 3, you get plus 6. Okay,
8.
that's all right. Right, so I get m is 6 or m is negative 1. Okay, so Masana, what you gonna do now?
Oh, I've got x
So now what I say, absolute value of
x minus 5
is equal to,
6
or,
negative 1.
okay, which one's not valid?
Negative 1.
Okay, so there's no solution, yeah? Okay, and then what I say, Nina?
X minus 5 plus 6 or x minus 5 is equal to negative 6.
Good,
Which then,
so the f for x is,
left will be negative 1.
right, did you get all get x is 11 or x is negative 1? Right, well done. Okay, you're on a 5-minute break.
Long story. It's basically, I just about there's my literally they said it's online and I said. You're not telling me you're where you going? No. Where's the geography? Where's the thing? I'm something. Oh,
What am I doing?
Oh, it seems to be nothing.
This is terrible. My kid knows nothing. Change my mind. There's what kills me. I found what I know. But she's not started for it. I lost. What are you there? What's the nearest pizza?
The pizza's not on second.
Okay, Totlo is here, Anay is here, Lamani is here, Sunny is here, Zian is here. Jinyao is here, Mai is here, Voye is here, Masana is here, Gabby is here, Padamayo is here, Nina is here, and Bianca is here. You are all here.
Nothing bigger.
Oh.
I never happened to my. Oh, so good. Just have to try.
No, I don't think.
You guys don't enjoy food, I know. I'm trying to everyone. And the whole love between like. I remember the. I don't mess with me, it's not so much. You tend to.
Half back, sir. Half back. It's so fluffy.
Ah. Like it is so bad.
Hold on.
Just to take it back. Right, let's go. Okay. Right, you have 17 minutes to try. What's next? What subject? Right, today it's Cindy.
Yeah, I like to.
Oh, this is easy.
All right, so let's have a look at this, guys. Okay, so with absolute values, okay, you have to look out, listen to me, okay, close it, okay. Don't be tough. Say goodbye, Sarah. Your kingdom's gonna be fine for 15 minutes. Okay, right. So, guys, listen. Absolute values. If you have a 0 or a negative on outside the absolute value equation or an absolute value inequality, which is what you do now, you think. You don't go use methods like a little robot. Negatives or zeros, think. Okay. So here now we're going to look at inequalities. Okay, you all know what an inequality is, something with that sign, right? How do I read that one? Read it for me. I had a lot of gas starting. People thought it was gas. No, it's not gas. It's less than or equal to. Remember how these signs work. Okay. I don't want to hear about crocodiles. Okay. Why is an equal sign? Why is an equal sign like that? Why is that a symbol for an equal sign? Because that length is the same thing as that length, right? That's why that's a symbol for an equal sign. With an inequality, why is this a symbol for division? Because something divided by something else, right? Okay, that's why that's a symbol for division. Okay. I have no idea. Right, okay, right, okay. So yeah, okay, if you look at this distance compared to this distance, this is a big distance, this is a nice small distance, right? You with me? So the smaller thing is on that side, the bigger thing is on that side. So this means x is smaller than 7.
Wow.
Don't tell me the crocodile eats the bigger thing.
No, it's
Okay, you can think that in your head, but I don't want to hear the word crocodile here. Right, okay, so this means What? That's a bigger size. The numbers are bigger than or equal to 7. Right, okay. So, when you get a negative constant, so guys, if you have this situation over here, where it's less than equal to k or less than k, okay, we're just looking at the less than, or we could have had added here, oh, I forgot to write this, or absolute value of f of x is greater than k. Just add that in, sorry. Okay.
Wait, it's not.
Or absolute value of f of x is greater than k.
Same one twice, so.
Is greater than k.
Yeah.
But what about greater and?
Now you stop sniffing people.
Okay, sir.
Okay, or you can have greater than equal to k. Right. Right. So now, I want you to speak to your neighbor. Okay. Solve for x. There's no working. Okay. Speak to your neighbor. When is the absolute value of x less than or equal to 0? What can I put in there? The question saying, what can I put into an absolute value to end up with an answer which is less than or equal? Sorry, less than or equal to 0.
Oh, it won't down.
Okay, if I put negative 20, does negative 20 work? What's the absolute value of negative 20? 20, is that smaller than or equal to 0? No. Put in negative a million. What's that? A million. Is a million bigger than, less than or equal to 0? No. So what's the only number that works?
0.
Okay, so the only solution. Right, try the next one. Yeah, think.
No, don't put that down on screen.
Be higher.
So.
So, right.
Yeah, it can be that 20 now.
But it makes sense.
It can also be that 1 million.
You can't say it's like
It's not completely.
Right. So, Mathana,
Yeah,
could x be negative a million and satisfy that inequality?
yeah,
Could it be a million?
yeah,
Could it be negative 1?
yeah,
Could it be 1?
excluding.
yeah.
Could it be 0?
No,
So what could x be?
not 0.
But it can be anything
Sure.
except for 0. How do I write that in maths? But x cannot be. You with me on that? No, I'd rather you write it like that. Okay, right. X is an element of reals. The sign is not euros, eh? It is an element of. Okay. Right, let's try the next one on the next page.
Oh, yeah.
Right, try the next one, C and D.
Love you too, Fido.
X is not element of reals.
Right, Maya. C, what did you say?
X, right?
Right, thank you. Right, so for C and A, right. So as Maya correctly said, for C, X can be anything. Okay. Absolute value either spits out 0 or a positive number, right? Okay, carry on with the exercise.
But like, it's something next one. Wait for.
Pick your neighbor, pick your neighbor. Have a conversation. Pick your neighbor.
Oh. As a geometry.
No, don't write. I mean, that's so. I feel like that is.
Yeah, we don't need to be around. Yeah. No, but if you put it in the absolute value, the negative equals a
Well,
positive.
it's gone, it has to be negative.
Yes. But this.
Yeah. Okay, where the side is bigger than where it's open, that means it's big, inside where it's smaller. Yes.
So read X and.
It has to be next to it. Oh, okay, yeah.
All right, Lamani, the next one. Okay, right, fine, please. Right, okay, so, right, Lamani for D. What could X be? Nothing. Okay, so you're just gonna write? No solutions. You can never get a negative answer. Right, try E.
You know my mom that's watching me.
Yes.
I guess it's zero.
I think we'll do
I think it's zero. I think she would, and she could do it with us.
That's for Gabby, but not you.
Same answers.
Okay, say, where are you getting? Are you getting?
So for E. Come on, what did you say for E? Okay, can never be less than -4.
Then one side.
Gabby, what did you say for F?
Don't touch me.
Perfect. Okay. X can be anything. Okay, it'll always, an absolute value will always put out something which is bigger than or equal to -4. Because they're always bigger than or equal to 0, right?
It's not equal to the absolute value of x is not equal to negative.
You don't just, that's not right.
If I put in any, what's the question say? Bigger than or equal to -4. So no matter what I put in there, I'm gonna get an answer out that is bigger than or equal to -4. Okay. Right, Vui, the next one. Absolute value, what numbers can I put in here so that I get answers out which are bigger than -4? Asana. If I put in -1,000, is the absolute value of -1,000 bigger than -4? Yes, because the absolute value of -1,000 is 1,000. Bigger than or equal to. Can't be -4, but that doesn't matter. Okay. It's bigger than or equal to. Right. So X can be what for you? Everything you put in there will give you an answer out which is bigger than -4. Right. Sana. Good job. Okay, right. So X can be anything, guys. Okay, all your answers will be bigger than -4. But here, X could be anything. You can always get an answer out bigger than -4. There, the next one. Can I get answers which are smaller than -4? No, so what's it going to be? No solutions. So for negatives, you just think a little bit. Okay. All right. Okay, so now, guys, we're looking at positive things, and I'm going to give you a rule. Okay. So now, all of these numbers K over here, okay, are all of those things, okay, are positive constants. Okay, and this is one of the few times later on when you draw the graphs, you don't have to learn things off by heart. But I think this formula is worth learning. Okay. If the absolute value of f of x is less than or equal to k, where k is a positive constant, okay, negative or 0 you think, but if it's a positive number, you're going to rewrite it like that without the absolute value. The way I remember it is I say it's exactly the same as the question, okay, this bit over here, okay, is exactly the same without the absolute value. And then it's the opposite sign, bigger than or equal to. So your number stuck between whatever that thing is. F of x is just something with x's in. is going to be smaller than or equal to k and bigger than negative k. And then you're going to solve for x. Okay, so I want you to see, okay, so we'll come back to method B now. So if I've got a less than or equal to thing, okay, there's a different technique for less than or equal to compared to bigger than or equal to. So here, we're using the less than or equal to technique. So I want you, see how you can read maths. Go try do that one. Go try do A using this bit over here, which I've circled in blue. Come on. So use that. That's a less than or equal to situation, a positive constant. Use that. It's just one line. And then stop. So now you got, remember now x is not, when you got equations, x is of set values. Now x, okay, x is a group of numbers. It's a set of numbers, right? Okay, there are an infinite number of solutions to this. So what I'm going to say, x is what? How do I read this? X is going to be bigger than or equal to, and in other words, x is stuck between -2 and 2. Now let's see if this makes sense. What are we saying? That if you put any number here between -2 and 2, you're going to get an answer which is smaller than 2. Okay, if I put in -2, what's the absolute value of -2? Is 2 smaller than or equal to 2?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. If I put in -1, what absolute value of -1 is?
1.
Which is smaller than or equal to 2. If I put in 0, if I put in 1, if I put in 2, right? Any number, there are an infinite number of solutions to this. Okay, anything between -2 and 2, okay, will satisfy that inequality. If I pick -3, what's the absolute value of -3? Is 3 less than 2? No, 3 is not less than 2. So. Right, okay, right. So x is stuck between -2 and 2.
Is that the answer?
That's the answer. Okay. But for greater than inequalities, so for this over here, now you've got f of x is greater than. Yeah, it was less than. So if you have f of x is bigger than or equal to k, okay, you're going to get the answer with ors in. So just like the last one solution without the absolute value is exactly the same as with the absolute value. Okay. Or, yeah, numbers can be between -2 and 2. Or f of x, you have to write the word or, is going to be less than or equal to -k. Right, so I want you to use this over here, what I circled in red, to answer question B. Oh, it doesn't.
No, Bruce, no. Sir, are you allowed to write to one?
But who wants to try? Somebody? Come on, someone. Sarah, what did you say? So, what does it say? X must be what? X must be greater than 3, or so we're claiming that if you sum in any number bigger than 3, it will satisfy that absolute value inequality, or smaller than -3, right? Pick a number bigger than 3, 11. Is absolute value of 11 bigger than 3? A million? Yeah. Okay. Anything between 3 and -3, we say won't work. Okay. So if I pick -2, absolute value of -2 is 2, which is not bigger than 3. Absolute value of 0 is not bigger than 3. It's less than 3. But any number smaller than -3. Okay, -6. What's the absolute value of -6? Is 6 bigger than 3? Yes, it is. Okay, but -2 wouldn't work because the absolute value of -2 is 2, which is not bigger than 3. Okay, why do I write the word or? Because the number can't meet both of these conditions at the same time. Okay, a number cannot be bigger than 3 or less than less than -3. You agree with me? Okay, it's either bigger than 3 or smaller than 3. Whereas here, this really means and. A number can be bigger than -2 and smaller than 2 at the same time. -1. -1 is bigger than -2 and is smaller than 2. So this, when we don't write anything, it really means and. Here, I can't have an and situation. X can't be bigger than 3 and at the same time smaller than -3. It's either going to be bigger than 3 or it's going to be smaller than -3. It can't live in both places at the same time. Here, X could live in both places at the same time. It could be bigger than -2 or less than or equal to 2. Depends what's in the question. So if there's a equal to thing in the question, there'll be that in the answer. If there's not in the question, it won't be in the answer. Right. Quickly, let's go try to see. The less than situation. So you're going to be using, it's a less than, so we're going to be using this thing over here. We're going to be using method A. So you have to solve for X. So we're going to say X minus 2 is what, guys? Either less than 5 or, and sorry, bigger than. If it's a less than scenario, it's stuck in between the two things. Now, how do I solve for X? You did these in core. What you're really doing is you're adding 2 to all 3 parts of the inequality, right? If I add 3 to here, I'm going to get -5 plus 2 is less than. This is what you're really doing. We don't normally write in the plus 2 in the middle, but that's really what's happening. You're keeping, remember those old-fashioned scales? You're keeping all 3 scales balanced. Okay? So I end up with -3 is less than X is less than 7. Hold on, guys. Yeah. Okay, just keep quiet. I'm going to carry on recording for the people online because I don't know notes. Okay, right. So, people at home, this one over here. Okay, look at the you're going to say if the absolute value on its own. Okay, it's a bigger than scenario, so we're going to say, just quiet, please, guys. Sorry, I'm just recording for the people here. I don't want to do a whole again tomorrow. So X minus 7 is bigger than or equal to 12, or X minus 7 is less than or equal to -12. Okay. So one's always exactly the same as the question, but with bigger than it's a or situation. Then you get X is bigger than or equal to 19, or X is less than or equal to -12 plus 7 is -5. Okay, you have to check solutions. Okay. Right, with this one, you want to isolate the absolute value. So you're going to get 2 times absolute value of X plus 4 is less than or equal to 10. Divide by 2. So X plus 4 is less than or equal to 5. It's a less than situation, so it's stuck in between 2 things. So X plus 4 is less than or equal to 5 or greater than or equal to -5. If I minus 4 from all 3 bits, I'm minusing 4 from there, and from there. I'm going to get -9 is less than or equal to X is less than or equal to 1. Okay. Then this one over here. Just quiet for 1 second. Just wait 1 second. So I get -3 absolute value of X plus 6 is less than 4 minus 10 is -6. If I divide by -3, direction of the inequality changes, so it becomes bigger than 2. So therefore, X plus 6 is bigger than 2, or X plus 6 is less than -2. So X is greater than 2 minus 6 is -4, or X is less than -8. Okay, you two. And that is that, guys. Right, you can come in.